All right, let's go ahead and start the Finance Committee meeting for December 19th. And the financial report is the first.
Okay, so hopefully we have a kind of a big agenda for tonight's meeting, and the meat of the agenda is really on item number 6. So I'm hoping we can kind of walk through items 1 through 5 within about 15 minutes.
Oh, I think we could do it quicker than that.
Well,
The sales tax is up, so I don't know if anybody has any qualms or questions on that. REIT seems to be doing well.
What was the variance in REIT though over, I mean, it's the first time we've seen something so significantly lower than the 5-year average. The 54,000 number?
That's because, I'm going to interject what I think it is, and that's because I think it's just 1 month, and usually we're looking at 2 months there.
Yeah,
right.
And we don't have the second month in there yet.
the 13th month.
Would we report 2 months though? Wouldn't it just continue on our
We don't,
delay?
look at
So
the
So if you
top,
look at the January.
look at January.
Yeah,
We include
That's true.
January back down there.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, any other house? Treasurer's report.
So looking at the treasury report, again, our funds continue to stay healthy. We're ending the general fund as of November with $4.7 million in it. Special revenue accounts, another $4 million in it. Our capital construction fund, which includes a lot of the bond proceeds, at $6.8 million. Our water sewer funds, $8.9 million. Our storm drainage funds, a good, again, healthy $2.4 million. And our trust and agency funds, which really isn't our money, so we don't focus on that too much, at $2.4 million. The grand total of about $30 million ending the month of November. Moving on, we can talk about the Tremont spreadsheet. So I'm hoping, oh wait, do we have one more?
Real estate excise
The real estate excise.
impact.
You're right. So again, looking at the REIT funds, we have a total of 1.83. We kind of showcased that on the sales tax spreadsheet already, but 436,000 of REIT 1 and 1.4 million of REIT 2. In the park impact mitigation fee, we got a total of $1.5 million. And I'll also be handing out tonight at the full council meeting the park impact fee and transportation impact fee annual report. Normally, or at least last year, Nick gave this to you guys, and he asked me to hand it out to you this year, so I'll hand it out at council meeting tonight.
You can do this later, but I'd like to remember how REIT 2 is restricted.
Speak to that. So REIT 1 is the less restrictive, that's why it has the smaller amount.
Lesser amount.
And we have our city hall payment that we will make out of that. That's where we bought the building next door. REIT 2 is really going to be our fallback position on the McCormick Village Park or our other capital projects that are more park. You know, parks are a good place. There's other uses we can use for it, but primarily it's going to be a capital improvement for a park.
Okay, okay.
And where we can do more things like office building type stuff and other things.
We
with the
had
REIT 1.
used some REIT funds to pay Bethel, if
We
I
did.
remember.
That was a
one-time.
That was a limited time
Okay.
offer, and that offer went away, and we capitalized
Based
on
on
it. And
it.
we spent
Okay.
that was REIT 1 also. Where we
Okay.
spent a chunk of $500,000. I want to. If I remember
Yeah, I think it
serves me
was.
Right, that we took out of REIT 1.
You know, it would be nice to know, though, if you could just give us a quick summary of what projects are eligible for REIT 2 or examples, parks, but I'm sure there might be something other than parks.
Where my office is right here, and I have a folder that I refer to. Go ahead.
Well, we were going to be done within that time frame.
Yeah, I'm
The mayor
sorry.
is stalling us, so.
Let's see if I can beat him.
REIT 1, these, it's been,
REIT 2.
yeah, REIT 2, okay, you know about REIT 2. REIT 2 are public works projects, local government for planning and acquisition, construction, repair, replacement, rehabilitation, improvements of street, roadway, sidewalks, streets, road lighting systems, traffic signal bridges, domestic water systems, storm, sanitary sewers, planning, construction, repair, rehabilitation, and improvements of parks. So it's streets, parks, sidewalks. So we could,
Signals
and
too.
traffic
Signals,
signals.
yeah.
And I have it up here just so you guys don't
Okay,
have to
yep.
look so small there. But I believe this is what you're reading
Mhm.
right there.
Acquisition
Oh, an
of
acquisition,
land
not-
for parks, but we didn't have
Yeah.
to acquire land for that.
Yeah.
So we
And-
had,
Then there was limited time, that REIT 1 for maintenance was expired in 2016.
but we had talked at one time about the blinking yellow left turn lights at some of our signals and improving them. So REIT 2 could be used for something like that.
Or a Salmonberry, help the Salmonberry road improvements, but it's kind of been identified this, if we don't have enough park impact fees for that McCormick Village Park.
We've got a commitment to that.
We got
and
a
we've
$300,000 or
got-
$400,000 shortfall right now.
Right,
and
from a cash
we-
flow perspective.
Yeah, we've got a source that we can,
Yeah,
and
use for
that,
that.
the pocket park down here, if the capital budget gets approved, we've got a $150,000 match that we need to come up with.
Okay. Fremont.
Tremont. So I have
Fi-
two. Go ahead.
Finance department's all concerned because the blue line isn't matching the green bars.
Yeah. Well, two things. First,
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to give you guys this kind of higher level summary on top. And if you want this, we can continue to include this. And if you don't, we don't have to include this in the packet when we talk anymore. It's all the same information, just rolled up into a graphical picture here. But it has the details. So right now we're including it. I'll kind of take direction from you guys if you still want the details included.
Okay,
or-
this is the details.
That's the details, correct.
I love details.
I
Okay.
could say I like the details.
I love details.
Okay. So the only thing that we really want to talk about with Tremont is that current spending is less than what we budgeted for. So our 24-month cash flow and our current spending levels are slightly less than what we had budgeted for.
Look about 1.4 million down. Am I reading that right?
But it's not because we've spent less money, it's just that we're behind on the project. And we've had plus, talking to Mark today about this, we've got pluses and minuses. We're about even, and we had some constructability challenges in the beginning with the underground utilities that we've gotten past, and they're moving forward those utilities and that vault. First week in January, that big vault will be buttoned up and backfilled, and then they'll start at the east end of the project at the top of the boulevard, building a similar vault over there. So once they get the underground utilities and the storm drainage pipes and vaults in the ground, then you'll start to see road work. But what's really set us back was things weren't, and the existing utilities weren't completely where they said they would be, and so they had to make design changes. Berger did too, and we've gotten 99% of that behind us, and we're back to we're a constructible project. But every time the contractor dug a hole where he thought the ditch was going to go, he found something that prevented him from digging there.
But that's not, we have certain timelines, don't we?
We do, and so far we've met our bond construction spend down, so that's the only real restrictive timeline as far as using of our sources of funding. The others are a little more flexible in how we spend those. So from that standpoint, we're not concerned. Finance is tracking that.
Okay.
Again, the only real story that we want to talk about is, okay, why are we slightly less than budgeted? We know there was a delay in the schedule by about a month, and there was lots of meetings during that month to kind of figure out these design issues. And from talking with Mark, we're back on track and expect lots of expenses to come in over the coming months, assuming we have good weather,
Weathers.
of
Right.
course, would be the only other delaying factor that kind of we're aware of now.
Okay.
So it's good. I mean, we're under
Right.
budget and we're getting back on a construction timeline that we want to be on.
We're behind our spending timeline. We aren't under budget, but we aren't over budget either.
Right.
That would be.
The undergrounding of the power, that looks like it's chugging along.
the utility, we'll go to, in January's, the Schedule 74 contract should be, you should be awarding that. But that's the work they're doing right now, that's those vaults and conduit, is the Puget Sound Energy overhead going to underground. That's the trenching and the conduit.
Well, we're expending for the PSC Schedule 74 city share.
Are you in the budget or on the actuals? The middle is the actuals, the top is the budget.
This is the budget, okay. So
Yeah.
This is the,
Yeah.
so we haven't expended anything.
Yeah, we
Oh.
know it.
The Schedule 74, no, you guys will get, see that contract in January.
Okay.
We're gonna go out to bid on it very soon. And we hope that ACI gets that bid, and make it a lot.
Oh, that would be good,
easier.
wouldn't it?
Make it a lot easier. We gotta put it out to bid.
So as far as the project is going, it's going pretty much as anticipated, or
I'm glad you're asking me
You're
that
comfortable?
now than last month. Yes, as of to date, weather is a concern.
Right.
Whether we can, keep, days like this morning and yesterday make it difficult for them to work, but it's
well,
going.
that's not the viability of the water detention system,
Yeah,
or at least the pond.
but it's tough to move dirt and compact dirt when
Yeah.
it's mud.
And as I understand from Mark, the contractor hasn't shifted their timeline horizon at all. So they said, hey, yeah, it took us a little slower here, but we're gonna make up for it in the coming months. So they have not requested a shift in their timeline, so
That's good.
schedule-wise.
One of the things what they've done is jumped ahead in their earthen wall, there's like a mesh retaining wall. They're along what was the Wet Apple site. They initially planned to use Tremont Place and Alder as a detour route, and they jumped ahead and built these retaining walls, so they won't use Alder because it's now got a earthen bank that would prevent that from happening. So we're going to see some modifications to the traffic plan, but that's, they've got to submit their stuff and get approved, but
Doesn't sound like too big of a deal.
no, I don't think so.
So if there's no further questions on Tremont, we'll come back each month to kind of report progress and
Yep.
keep up on that one. The transportation benefit update. So I include this because Rebecca was working on our TBD annual report. I said, hey, well, let's just bring this finance committee, make them aware. Again, what you'll see is with our $20 per vehicle car tabs, we've collected year-to-date $167,000. We have in the budget, in the biennial budget, split $152,000 anticipated to have been spent in 2017 and nearly $200,000 in 2018. We currently have a contract in place with Puget Paving for construction work of $151,000. And I know they haven't spent that yet, but we have that contract in place, and that work is planned on being going forward soon, I would think.
We've done
Yeah, some of it's been done.
Some of it's done,
Some-
and we're not going to do any more until spring.
Okay, so most,
And that's the way the contract was written.
and so most of these costs are going to hit in 2018 from actual expenditures.
But then we'll have a positive balance then.
Correct. We'll have a carry forward balance. Yeah. And then we'll continue to collect in 2018 and then identify needs and projects to spend the TBD money on. And I believe Alan talked with you guys about this for the philosophy of having it be as a first in, first out regarding transportation spending. So we want to spend the TBDs as we get them.
Okay.
So we're a little slow this year on spending them, but if we can make up for it in 2018 and then identify other needs for paving, then we're
We
in good
also
shape.
had to wait to collect the money because we
There was a
just,
delay,
yeah,
Okay.
and I think we're also waiting for the results of the street study.
correct.
We have that, and Mark's is working on a
Right.
February, March-ish presentation on the pavement management system,
Yeah.
which then
Prioritizes our fixes.
Yeah, well, and they say they're using it, but I said I want a presentation to
Show.
demonstrate that we're using it and is prioritizing where we're putting our our dollars. So
Yeah.
we're working on that, and we need to get out to bid sooner. We just had some procurement challenges this past year, and, you know, just, we didn't get out to bid as soon as we needed to, and now it's not paving weather.
That's right.
So we have a contract awarded. As soon as the weather gets warm enough and dry enough, they'll be out there doing it, so.
Yeah. So that's a straightforward report on the TBD. The next topic.
And you're gonna be sharing that tonight?
I can if you'd like me to. What I was going to talk tonight was the traffic impact fee and the park impact fee report.
Okay.
And there's, and Nick was kind of teaching me on this, that there's a RCW that says, you know, he's supposed to report to the council on how much we've collected for these particular fees. So I was going to hand that report out to you guys in brief summary
Yeah.
on it.
I think it'd be,
But I can also
Or just
mention this as,
Yeah.
mention this as well,
Yeah, I
since
think
they're all
so,
kind
too.
of related.
It's a
Okay.
brand new deal, tell them how
Yeah.
much we collected
Right.
and how much we've already committed to spend as a result.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't start getting that until January this year, wasn't it?
Right, but it was
So-
only, I mean,
Later
it
than
trickles
that.
in.
Right, no, and it trickles in. That's
Right.
why we haven't put it on the road yet, yeah.
yeah.
You'll get quite a bit, because I have to relicense one of my vehicles, so you'll see it.
I don't think we started getting it until like March. I thought there was like a 60-day delay.
There is something, yeah,
Yeah, we got some in, but it wasn't much.
right,
They're
yeah.
out of the gate. I mean, and the thing that we budgeted 152, we've awarded a contract for 151, and we're
Yeah.
getting more than that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's good.
We'll make
That's
sure we
what
spend it
all
next
needs
year.
to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
So you guys have been asking about the salary survey. Again, we've did a salary survey and adjusted a large portion of the employees in 2017. And so this is looking at those employees that weren't adjusted and what would be the cost to actually implement that adjustment starting in 2018. So the total fiscal impact for 2018, $55,000, much less than I actually thought. Haven't just kind of anticipating what this would be, but it'll impact 18 employees. We kind of broke it down by department so you can see how many employees in each department this would impact. And we also broke it down by fund, because it's not all coming out of the general fund. Some will be impacting the storm fund, water sewer fund, and street fund. So overall, again, the mayor asked, can we afford this? I said yes, for $55,000 spread amongst our various funds. You know, this is easily absorbable into our current expenses. We have sales tax revenue up $200,000 more than we anticipated. We also have budget authority in 2017 and 2018 more than what we have spent. So from a budgeting perspective, we are fine. From a revenue perspective, we are fine. And from the actual expenses to the city, it's pretty low dollars here.
So when we finish this phase, that entire
Correct.
salary survey has been
We're done.
implemented.
Correct.
Yeah, everyone's
Yep.
trued up.
Everyone's
Yeah.
trued up, yep.
Would you like to see this on the January 9th?
Yeah,
Because we can't make it retroactive the longer we wait.
yeah.
You know, I've had employees asking
Yeah.
about
No,
it, so.
I think it'd be great.
Yep.
Okay, so bring forward this, and then, I don't know, do we need to do this as a motion or resolution, or do you just say, hey, go forward and implement?
We could, somebody could make a motion tonight if they wanted to say, we've talked
I-
about,
I think you'd be better off to do a resolution only because
Okay,
Okay.
you're
Yep.
kind of catching
let's do it. Yeah,
okay,
council
Yeah.
off guard a bit.
Okay.
I mean, we know what's going on, but maybe not everyone.
okay, we'll bring forward a resolution in January,
Yeah.
January 9th would be good.
January 9.
That
Okay.
way
And that
you're
still
gonna have-
gets it in before the
Yeah.
end of the first payroll period.
No, it'll be effective the next day,
Yeah,
so they'll
that'll
miss 10 days.
It'll miss
Oh.
one payroll period.
Okay.
It's not the end of the
Part
year.
of the payroll
No, I think they'll still be thrilled.
period. Yeah, yeah.
Those that.
Because it was contemplated in the salary survey that it was gonna be a 2 or 3 year
Correct.
phasing.
Correct.
We had a lot of people coming and going, and we weren't sure what the revenue was gonna be like, so it was the direction, at least I got at the end of
This
last
was-
year, to try to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is more
You know-
expedient than what we were forecasting.
And our revenue allows us to do it.
Why don't I just bring it up tonight as the finance committee report and see if we get pushback, we'll delay it to the 9th, otherwise I'll just make the motion tonight.
I mean, we have the budget authority already.
We have the budget authority.
We've got the funds, we've got the
Yeah.
authority,
Funds.
it's just a matter of go forth and do it effective,
Right.
whatever, next
1/1.
payday.
Yeah. Right.
1/1? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would work for us.
Okay.
Maybe drop this at the dais for everybody.
Okay.
That would
Does
be-
does this and I'm sorry I have to leave, but does this 55,000 include benefits?
Yes,
Is that the benefit
Yeah.
cost too?
yeah.
Well, the benefit cost.
Well, there really isn't any benefit other than the
It's the-
employer's
yeah,
portion of taxes.
Yeah, you get
Okay,
that burden, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the benefit impact would be
These are
very
for current
marginal.
employees, so
Okay.
they've already got health care and all
Okay.
that.
They're already
Payroll taxes and
fully
that portion.
done, okay.
Right,
They'll just a little bit more portion.
Yeah,
than
that-
our in taxes.
right.
Yeah.
That's why I say it's marginal, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
And only 30,600 is general fund.
Okay,
All right.
so I'll bring copies for, okay, make copies before I go.
Yeah, you
Like
know,
tonight?
like 4 other copies. We already have it.
Yeah.
Okay,
4. Call Jeff, you got the number?
union negotiations. I don't know if Sharon wants to.
She walked in.
You just walked by a minute ago.
Okay. Nutshell, we've got the police guild is on the agenda tonight,
Here, trade you.
and Sharon and Noah have been in communication with the Teamsters, and I'll let them take it from there.
Yeah, do you want me to start and then you
Go
can
ahead.
take over? So, the guild first, we came to an agreement. They are moving to, again, we started these negotiations, moving AWC 250 or left trust. We initially said, that, we don't care which plan, but we want to be neutral to the city. So if you go left trust, you may adjust your premiums to make those two plans neutral to the city. We talked for a long time about AWC 250, and we thought that's the direction they're going. And then within the last couple weeks, they decided they wanted to go with left trust. And we said, fine. We looked at it. It does not have an impact to the city, so they can go with left trust. No big deal there. We honored kind of what we said before, is we're going to pay their deductible. And we made the offer of the 10% for actual out-of-pocket expenses. What we have in the final agreement is we're covering the deductibles for the left trust and the Kaiser.
Which are lower, the left trust deductibles are lower than the AWC Health First.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the left trust starts at $100 and $200 for your deductibles. $100 for individual, $200 for family. The AWC deal we were working on was $250 and $750. So that's
Good deal.
a good deal. They on the Kaiser side, so going to the actual risk exposure that we talked about, the 10%. The Kaiser, we're going to go forward with that as an actual program that they can submit and receive up to 10% of the
Okay.
differential.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 3 or 4 employees that are under that program, but first they would have to meet their current out-of-pocket maximum. Thank you, of $1,000, I think roughly for an individual, maybe $3,000 for a family. So they first have to meet that before they can start to earn some of this risk exposure compensation. For the other groups on,
Can we park the Teamsters until after, because we're gonna have a session tonight after the meeting
yeah,
for that.
Yeah.
But
So then
with
we'll
the
brief everybody at once.
Yeah.
police guild, there's the deductible and then there's the $50. because
Yeah,
there's an extra.
right, yeah. So I was going to circle back to that. So those that have went to the left trust will get the deductible and an additional $50 for their medical impacts deposited into their VIVA. Okay, so in total they'll get $150 or $250 for that group, and the other group will get $200 or $400 and up to 10%.
So I'm kind of surprised they agreed to that, but they did, so.
We're very
And
happy
we've
with the
shared
deal.
with Teamsters that that's what they took, and they're like, well, that's not enough. So anyway, we'll talk about that tonight. We've got a brief meeting and then probably 10 minutes up there. So,
Yeah. So we can move on to developer.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's get Jeff on the phone.
Do you have his number?
Sharon's probably got no. I've got it right
I
here.
think I would, but I don't. But I have it handy.
Oh, my. It's just Jeff and my phone.
Just
So we've been working on this for a long time now.
206
Oh,
206, let's see, mobile,
914.
914-4761.
76.
4761.
Yeah.
You good?
Just gonna-
Yep. I'll let you start.
Jeff Teddy.
Hey Jeff, it's Rob. We're here with John Clausen, Beck Ashby, Thomas Hutter, Sharon, and Sean Conchardi, and Noah in the room. So I'm just going to kind of give a high overview, and then this PowerPoint presentation is using the assumption of the credit model. So to date, we've been looking at three different. The developer would really like us to do a reimbursement model, and Jeff feels there's a legal argument under the county statutes that we could legally get there in a reimbursement model. The other end of the spectrum is the developer building the infrastructure because they're nice guys, and we receive the benefit from that. And where we've put most of our effort into a credit model where they're going to build the infrastructure and they're going to get credit for the back in the form of the CFC credit. And in this credit model, for that to cash flow properly, we would create a sub area, and we would need to increase the CFC charges in that area by $16,000. So before we jumped into that, a lot of our efforts have been put into that. Noah and Thomas and Rebecca have been doing some work and looking whether or not we can afford to do that and what impacts that has to what we've determined is we're not financially constrained in our capital facilities charges, and so we just want to kind of we're going to bring this PowerPoint probably to the 9th, just because that's, regardless if we enter into this agreement or not, everybody needs to be aware of the challenges that present themselves in our current capital facilities plan. And with that, Jeff's got this PowerPoint that Noah's been working on, and Noah's going to run you through this pretty quick, and we got to try to be, my goal is to be done at 6:15 here this evening because there's a lot of information. So.
Okay, I'm gonna try to be clear as I walk through this, but we've been working really hard on the how-to of the equation. How can you legally do this? How can you administrate this? How can you put this structure in place, this credit model? And then part of that kind of understanding the how-to, we want to circle back with, okay, what was the original assumptions that were used to calculate our current CFC? So we went and had a phone call with Katie Isaacson, and she walked us through her memo of how the original CFCs were calculated and the assumptions used in that. And now that conversation, a new question arose is, well, shoot, if these were the assumptions you used, can we actually financially afford to do this deal?
And what we learned is the data that Katie got from the consultant that we no longer works for us isn't very good. And then as a council, if you recall, when this came forward, we weren't comfortable with the size of the rate increases, nor were we comfortable with the size of the capital facility charge increase. And so a policy decision was made to soften those things. And we stretched some of our capital plan even farther out. But it goes beyond that.
Yes, that was the first challenge we ran into. And so once we kind of tumbled into that question, I wondered, well, what does our current list look like? What's our current budget look like? How are we currently paying for all these projects? If we have a problem down here, I want to make sure we're solid for the next budget season at least. We can get through there. So that's what most of this presentation focuses on. What is our current budget, current list of projects, and how can we afford to pay for these things? And how are we paying for these things? Okay? So what I have up here is, I call it the total project list. I took the far left here, you have your construction program for water and sewer, and your equipment program for water and sewer. And these are the projects that are identified in our current 2017-2018 budget. And I'm calling it the total project costs of these, okay? So in total, our construction program would cost us $14.3 million, equipment $110,000, so total $14.5 million. Now I wanted to focus a little more specifically on what was authorized in the 17-18 budget, Okay, so that was the total project cost spread between 16 through 19. But I want to focus on what do we have our current budget and the sources to fund those projects now, because that's what I have to worry about this period. We have in total 8.1 million in the construction program and 110 again in the equipment program, so $8.2 million of expenses for the biennial budget. When I look at our 2017 water sewer expenses to date of what we spent on the projects, that's what we have up here, $280,000. So we haven't spent a whole lot of money on these projects. So I'm pushing all the budgeted expenses into the 2018 time period. So we are December, we haven't spent very much of it, so everything else is going into 2018. And that's all this is telling you. This is how much is going to be in 2018 planned expenses. So $7.9 million for these projects.
No,
Wait, 2 slides and I think it might make
Okay.
it clear. Okay? So now this slide says, well, I originally started this with the total project cost. I looked at what was authorized in 17-18, and there's still a residual value from that total project cost, and that's this $5.3 million, which we would then start budgeting in 2019 to complete the projects. And to make that look a little simpler, I did a little project cash flow, saying in the 14-16 period, we spent $816,000 on this project list. In 17, we spent $280,000. In 2018, I anticipate spending $7.9 million. And then in 2019, to complete this project list, we need an additional $5.3 million of budget expenditure authority. Okay? So that's just taking our current project list that's budgeted and paying for it and completing those projects. Good so far?
Okay.
Okay. Now it gets a little tricky. Okay, because now I want to look at, great, that's all the expenses, that's what I need. Now where am I paying for this? We're going to start this conversation by telling you about Katie's analysis. So we have the comp plan and we have the CFC rates. And I looked at both those tables and said, okay, are these same projects? How are these calculated? What we did is we identified these projects and how they were identified to be paid for using the CFC. So I have a column here called CFC revenue for 2018. This total is the value of all these projects and those dollar amounts that were assigned to be paid for from CFC revenue. Following that back, I want to make sure that's clear because this table's a little iffy.
well, when you say CFC, are those impact fees, what is that? No.
Connection fee.
Connection
Yeah,
fees.
so
It's the connection fee.
yeah, so
Okay.
when we set the connection fee,
Okay.
we had a list of projects.
Okay.
And of those projects, we assigned a certain percentage to be paid from CFC
Right.
revenue. And that's what built our CFC
Right.
rate.
Right.
So I've gone back to that and said, okay, well, 50% of Well 9, for example, is to come from CFC revenue. That's where 50% of those projects are as the source of funding, and the other 50% is the water sewer fund. Okay? We also have another funding source, which is our capital proceeds. That's the drinking water state revolving fund loan for well
Okay,
13.
I was looking for the loan. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's the
So I
loan.
separated that out. So we got operating funding source, we have our CFCs as a funding source, and we have our capital proceeds as a funding source.
Wasn't that a $6 million loan?
Yes, we spent some of it
Okay.
on
Some-
design
yeah.
and
Yep.
Okay.
So some was spent in 16, and this is what we would anticipate spending in 17, and some could be spent in 19. So I got here 18 and 19. So this capital proceeds, you see you got 183,000 still remaining to be spent.
Okay.
So that's how I broke out these projects. Now I'm gonna move on to see the grand totals
So
here.
in 2019, we're estimating what the rate revenue will be, and we're estimating what our connection fees will be.
I'm not on the revenue side yet. This is only expenses. So this is saying.
Oh, are we still on
This-
expenses?
Yeah, yeah.
Still
This is
expensive.
saying that
Revenue.
for 2018, I need $1.8 million to be paid for from this fund for these projects. I need $1.2 million to be paid for from this fund for these projects. And then likewise in 19, I need $3.3 million from my water fund, and I need $2.2 million out of my CFC fund
Okay, this is not
Source
projecting
of
what the,
funds.
the source of funds.
Source.
Okay.
source.
okay.
Right.
The next one's gonna be exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're gonna get there.
I was thinking this wasn't.
Yeah. So I wanted to try to make it a little simpler if I could. Again, so this is the
Okay.
amount of cash, if I look at the two funds I need for 2018 to pay for the projects. Okay, cash to pay for projects. This is the amount of cash I need to pay for projects and make our first debt service payment on the loan. Okay, so 19 we need $5.5 million cash. In 2018 I need 3.1. Okay. So I wanted to put this, to get to your question, well, revenues and is this going to balance? I want to put this in an income statement type format. So we could look at 17. I ignored all 17 because all I care is about where we're ending in our cash balance for 17. We've already paid for stuff, but I don't really care. I'm looking forward to 18, 19. So we begin 18 with $3.4 million in our water sewer operating fund. We begin 2018 with $5.19 million in our Fund 403, our water sewer reserve. But this is the fund that we deposit our CFC revenue into. And in years past, we've also made transfers from our operating fund to this fund. So that's why that's a healthy balance there. Okay? Again, in the prior slide, you saw how many of the project expenses are anticipated to come from this fund. So I take out my 1.9, leave me 1.5. I bring that forward for 2019 and continue that to say, okay,
That doesn't look good.
it doesn't look good. But all this is really saying, if I'm relying on cash only to pay for my projects, excluding all operations, okay, operating revenue and expenses, we would end 2019 in the hole of $1.8 million. Okay, that's what I need to fund the projects. We do the same exercise for Fund 403, and we come to a positive $1.78 million. Okay, if I combine the two, we get to a total of $26,000 in the hole. Again, you see this revenue line that I've completely blanked out. Okay, so I'm not assuming new
Using
revenue.
the cash we have.
Only the
can we
cash we
afford-
have.
Can we afford to build the projects?
And that's all the projects that are on the list.
On the budget.
In the budget.
In the budget.
Not the comp plan, but the budget.
There's more projects on the comp
Okay,
plan.
so we'll come to that.
Okay, but when we go back to that first slide, did I see the treatment plant?
Yeah. Yeah. The Tremont.
The
No.
the treatment plant's operations. It's not in the capital plan.
No, I was looking to see if the pump
The
station,
Marina pump station?
Marina
Yeah.
pump station?
No,
It's not,
Okay.
not in the budget.
okay,
it's not in the budget, but it's in the comprehensive plan.
correct, okay.
Yeah, so there is projects that are in the comprehensive
Correct.
plan is larger.
There's another list that we're gonna
And
get
we're,
to.
yeah,
Okay.
okay, so let's
Okay.
fast forward a little bit back to where it was. Cash needed,
So
great,
this is basically neutral.
yes,
To fund what we've,
What we have in the bank right now.
to
yeah,
fund the projects that are in the budget,
Right.
but that doesn't fully implement our capital improvement
Correct.
plan.
correct.
Correct.
It only gets
pays
us
for the budget.
to make sure that for the next 2 years, that we can complete the projects that we've committed to.
Correct,
Again, remember, that's where I said, hey, I'm concerned about what are we
Right.
doing, we got guys on the field now, can we pay for this?
right,
I can say, yeah, we can pay for this, you know?
If-
Right.
And this is, once again, this is the middle scenario, if we entered into it.
Well, hold on.
Yeah,
Hold
okay.
on.
we're not there
Yeah,
yet.
we're not there yet.
We're not there
We're
yet.
just building.
So all we have to do
Basics.
is just not give these people here their money and we're good.
Well, there will
We don't pay the employees and we're fine.
No, that's
There will
that's
be-
the operations side, this is only on the capital project
there will
side.
be revenue.
Then there's revenue
Right.
that comes in.
Yeah,
Over
so,
3
but,
years.
but the important point I want to make is that, because Thomas reminds me is that what this tells us is that after 2019, we would have zero cash in our 401
Right.
and zero cash in our 403.
And a
Correct.
big need.
And a big need.
Yes.
That's right.
Correct.
That's where we're going.
That's right. So here's the big need. Right, here is the water, the blue is the water comp plan. Okay, sorry, it's a little hard to see. And the purple is the sewer plan. So I've stricken off everything we've just paid for and bought. Everything else on the list is still on the list. And so that leaves us a total cost of $14.5 million for the water and sewer projects, with an ongoing $705,000 per year. Okay. I even wanted to further break that out again, how much of this is to be paid for from rates and how much was anticipated to be paid for from connection fees. Okay, so $12.5 million from connection fees with an annual $460,000 and total project cost of $2.1 million from rates with an
Now, notice
ongoing
you've
cost
got-
here, $237.
You are assuming that we have got entered into this agreement because you've stricken the pump stations 1 and 2 from McCormick
Nope.
from that list.
Nope.
They're not.
Nope. This is assuming we build this out. Again, these were on the project.
They were,
list.
that's right, they were in the budget.
We paid for these and bought this out.
Yeah, that we did, okay, so you assume that we did.
So far, we're not talking McCormick at all. We're talking
Right.
about the city of Port Orchard.
Okay.
How are we gonna pay for these projects? Where does that leave us going forward? Okay?
Okay.
So it's still a large number going forward, 14.5.
What's that
total.
plus 750,000?
That includes 100,000 of these
Telemetry.
telemetry upgrades of $100,000 per year, and water main replacements, $250,000 per year, and the debt service payments of $355,000 per year.
Okay.
So this total 14.5 plus the 705, what time frame does that span? That would be years.
Well, this is from the 6-year
It's a 6-year kit
comp
tip.
plan.
I understand, but when does
For
that
which-
expire?
2023.
We just spent
Yeah.
all of the money.
Right. I think 2022.
Yeah, because we said it was 16 or 17, I think. Yeah, 2022, 2023. I guess you.
So we got $14.5 million worth of projects on there. We just,
21?
we,
Well, I'm just
yeah.
trying to figure the time frame of which.
We
is-
got 4 more years.
So we've completed everything by 2019. Now we're looking at 2020 and beyond, and this is what's still on the list. And if it's a 6-year, then we've got 3 years to complete this list.
And that's what I want to know. So we got 3
Okay.
more years
Yeah.
beyond 19.
Yeah.
And no
We
mon-
spent it all through 19,
And we have no cash to start it
right?
because I have not assumed any new revenue.
Correct. We have
Okay.
3 years to fund 14.5 plus 705.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah.
you got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I want to know. I just want the time frame.
Yeah.
Right.
And for me, the big one is the ongoing annual cost. Okay, because some of the project stuff, I don't know if you can flex that timeline wise, but the annual cost, the annual debt service, for example, that's coming every year, regardless of what you do with your projects.
So, moment time here. So in this scenario, 2 years from now, we've built the marina pump stations. The well campus, though, for $11.9 million isn't in our capital improvement plan.
Yeah, you'll.
So that'd be on top of that.
Yeah, there are a number of project costs that were not included. So you can see here, well 11, reservoir update none, 12 construction none, Melcher Street pump station none, Sedgwick area none. So there are projects on the list that we did not have a cost estimate for. I don't know what that means, but I'm just pointing it out.
I am wearing a constant glucose monitor.
Oh.
And what you're hearing is the one little beep is my blood sugars are too high and I can't turn it off, and it's gonna until they get down under their range.
Is it because of the
We're gonna-
presentation? I can stop.
Yeah.
Not blood pressure.
I don't want to sit
Glucose.
there.
Glucose,
We'll
yeah.
start over.
It's- yeah.
Yeah. Unless you want to sweeten the pot, I think.
Do you need some sugar or anything? I mean, I can get some.
And I need less sugar.
Oh, you want some water? Some water.
Yes, that
Yeah,
would be good,
please.
thank you.
Okay, good. Well, you let us know. So that's where we're at so far at the presentation. No questions? So far, so good. All right, so now we're going to talk about adding some revenues to the conversation. We've got 2 revenue sources, our operating revenue from water sewer and our connection fee revenue.
No bake sales yet.
No bake sales yet. And part of the connection fee forecasting, I want to talk about historical connections. Okay. I have the historical chart, so you can see in 2017 we received a total of 48 water connections, a total of 45 sewer connections. 2016 we had 13 water connections and 36 sewer connections. So you have this historical table here. You have these outliers. I call them outliers because they're very large compared to the rest of the
It's
years.
the rush development.
And it was due to these apartments. The other thing you'll notice about the table is that sewer connections have been higher, except for this year, relative to water, and that's due to Thomas.
Bayside and the Ridge finished developing, so we only serve sewer in the Ridge, and so obviously we're getting more sewer connections. And with them being built out, we won't see as much of a delta.
Anymore. So,
Other than the Quebec North, when that phase
Right.
develops.
so historically we've had more sewer connections available to connect, and now we're starting to get those into alignment 1-to-1 ratios. But this gives you some historical context of how many connections we're actually receiving in a year. We took a 3-year average of 34 on water and 60 on sewer. And also we have in this table the total amount of connection fee revenue we've received going back to 2010. So a historical table, just for a frame of reference. So these are the forecasting scenarios we're going to look at. We call this one the Katie Isaacson scenario. So again, it's based on the original CFC work, where we set the CFC at 5,945 for water and 5,157 for sewer. Now I want to point this out that the assumption was 115 for connections per year for water and 121 for sewer. So again, think about the historical table. We're 2 years into the plan. We haven't seen those kind of numbers yet, but that's what was as a part of this original analysis. We ran 2 other scenarios. Again, I got a 34 and 60, which is that 3-year average. I'm keeping the rates the same, and then I just threw in a 40-40 because we recorded 40 and 40 in 2017. So the first scenario, again, I got the income statement set up. Total beginning cash for 401, our project expenses. I'm assuming $500,000 of net revenue. So I'm assuming we're paying all our employees, all our operational costs, and we're netting $500,000 for our water fund. And I'm using that for 18 and 19.
Which is a number come from this year.
Correct.
Prior years wasn't that good, but we just imposed a rate increase. So that's
Yeah,
all
so
it was.
substantiate 2017, we're about $500,000 of net revenue. So it felt like a reasonable number, I guess. So if you carry that forward through 2019, our hole shrinks because of the $1 million, and it's now we're at $807,000. On the connection side, and this is where all the connections come in, we take the beginning fund balance, project expenses, net water CFC revenue. So currently, when a water customer comes and pays a connection, we have a loan with McCormick Land Company from the original acquisition of the water system, right? And so for every connection, we pay out $700 to McCormick Land Company. So this is netting out those debt service payments for every connection. So you can see we can get $603,000 based on 115 water connections, and $623,000 based on the 121 sewer connections. So in this world where these connections actually occurred and do occur in 1819, we end 2019 with $3.4 million of cash between the 2 funds to fund our $14.5 million project list going forward. Okay? And we would then also have some forecasts of what our ongoing revenues would be to help fund that list. But that starts to frame up how we're starting to look at this. Okay?
That's the ultra aggressive model.
Well, and the other challenge is the assumptions made in this was that we've kind of been bannering around a number. Probably 85% of our development going forward is going to happen out in McCormick Woods. We're going to get 15% of it is infill, and the rest of the city. When this was put together, our water system consultant didn't believe that there was a capacity issue out there, and we know differently than that. There's 75 connections left in the sewer system, of which 25 have been used, so there's 50 left, and there's 160-ish in water, and that's it.
There's no way we could achieve it in
We can't
water.
achieve it unless the improvements are made.
And additionally, all of the numbers that you're looking at do not include numbers for the McCormick Well campus. It wasn't contemplated in the plan.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're not even talking McCormick. This is, again, the state of the current city.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is,
So Katie's numbers can't happen without significant capital improvements, because there's no place, we can't hook up onto the system.
For which we can't afford.
But you're good on the water side, you're not good on the sewer side.
Yeah.
There's no connections to be
You
had.
said you had 150 connections.
150 connections.
Versus only contemplating 115.
1 year. Yeah, you can get a year and a half.
yeah, this is per year, so. So anyways, same analysis, but I've lowered the connections to the 3-year average. Again, go back to the historical table. Everybody wants to tell me different numbers, and I go, well, I don't know. I haven't been here long enough. But I look at historical tables as a frame of reference. What would that produce if it looked the same? And we would be about $1.9 million of cash available to, again, start to fund our $14.5 million of projects.
But still don't have the sewer capacity. Have the water capacity under the scenario, but not the sewer capacity.
And in 2019 it ends.
We've still not done anything so if this is year 2, we've already hit our limit of 170, right?
On the sewer side,
We only have 50 connections left.
that's what I mean, so we don't have it, right? So this isn't doable either. It's doable on the water side, not the sewer side.
For 160 houses.
Right.
We can get through this chart, but not beyond it.
Yeah, and so then I call this the more realistic scenario because we had 40-40, so that seems pretty real. So this seems like a real scenario of funding projects, how much cash we get. We're going to be $1.8 million starting 2020, again to fund our need, plus any future connections. If you say there's zero, then have that discussion. But that's kind of the current state.
Now, the developer's telling us they're willing to do these improvements, and they're going to build 120 houses a year is their target. And we believe we can get 20 or 30 in infill in the rest of the city. 20, if it's half what we've been getting, then 20 is a safe number, I think. So we're probably looking at potentially more than Katie's projections if the capital improvements are made, but
Well, that's
Yeah.
barring economic
Yeah,
issues that
that's-
are out of our
Right.
yeah.
control.
Well, and so yeah, there's
Well,
there's
also-
But the
when-
risk is not on us, though.
if they build the infrastructure,
gone
we
there
have
yet.
no risk.
Yeah,
If we go out and borrow the money,
Yeah.
which I'm not advocating
Right.
for, because
Right, understand.
Yeah.
Yep.
we hold the risk.
yeah.
But even when you said the average using 40 for homes, okay, most of those are going out in the McCormick area. I don't think you can cut that in half and say 20 is going to be infill.
I think you're gonna get that in Blueberry. You're gonna get that,
Okay.
some projects
Yeah,
downtown.
I don't know.
I think
mean,
we're gonna
I
get
don't
20
know.
a year.
But
Okay.
I think that's kind of what spurred the, okay, can we actually financially afford this?
Right.
If you make the leap and say, all this is happening out in McCormick, and you enter into a credit model that exempts them from paying a CFC, what do you really have?
How can we pay for that?
Where's your money?
Where's the
Right.
money
Where's your
coming
revenue
from?
source
Right.
to pay for $14.5 million projects?
Essentially, if you look at historical data, what the city has been pulling in on connections is not going to be able to fund your current CIP as we're finding it struggle. We're finding struggles to fund our current CIP with connections.
Right.
So,
Right.
And if we don't get any connections, the system as it stands is probably sufficient, other than the 2-year project list that we have. I mean, we'll have water source downtown. We're not buying it from Bremerton. It's as we grow. How do we pay for that, and where's that growth going to happen?
So the next set of scenarios, so I hope that's kind of pretty clear.
Mhm.
We're going to start now introducing McCormick into the discussion. Okay. So again, we're operating as a credit model. Under the McCormick discussions, I'm going to run through these 3 scenarios first. The first is no revenue forecast, okay, to set the foundation, set the base. And then we'll introduce what we're calling their revenue forecast, or their connection forecast. And I have one here as at the rates that are currently in our draft agreement. And then the scenario 2 would be, well, we can't do this. We at least have to do this, and I'll show you why. Because Rob does not like the second one. So, and he's right, and you'll see why. So under the credit model, you enter into the agreement. You look at the current budget. What project comes off is McCormick Station 1 and 2. The total cost of that project is an impact of $400,000 in the 17-18 biennium, and then $2.2 million in the 19 biennium. So I scratch those off our total project list and reduce our total current project cost. Again, this isn't the future, this is the current. Okay. I go through the exercise. We've reduced the cost on the project cost on the that $400,000. 200,000 here, and 200,000 there for 2018. Again, we end the year in 2019 with $500,000 in the hole, and $3 million up here positive. So a total of $2.5 million cash. Now I'm gonna pause it there because I just want to show you, because this will, I think, make it click, is that under the other scenario, we ended with a hole of $26,000, right? Now I've just backed out $2.6 million of project costs out of our cash flows, which just flips it to the $2.7 million. Okay, so that,
Because they paid for it versus us paying for it out of our cash.
right. So that should explain why we just flipped that. All we did is take that project out, they're paying for it. Great, now we have $2.6 million worth more cash to use for our $14.5 million worth of projects. Okay, again, you see no revenue here. Now, introducing revenue. What you should see is, again, the 500,000 per year. Don't want to change that. Went positive here. Again, due to the reduction in project costs, cash flow. Now, net CFC water revenue, you see negative numbers here. So again, if you remember, we talked about the loan. Under this scenario, the city's only collecting $346 in water CFC cash, okay? Collecting $346 in cash and a water connection. And then we're turning around and cutting a check to McCormick Land for $700. So that's why we're upside down. And our water, and again, it's per connection. So every connection makes the problem worse. So we're not rooting for connections in this scenario. And then you have your net sewer. So in total, you would end 2019 with $4.4 million in cash. But again, this is a problem because you have to borrow how you cover your water obligations. So that's where we say, okay, can't do that. We have to factor the $700 into that water calculation, and you see the water revenue flips. Okay, so it ups us a little bit, $4.5 million. So far, so good? Okay. So now, again, we've entered into the agreement. We, at the current agreement level, 346 and the 3,000, and we've completed these projects. We're at the end of 2019. We've completed all the projects
So to get to
in
this
yellow.
though, to do these projects, we have taken our current CFC charge of this, of water and sewer, and we've added $16,000 to this sub area. And we've got about a $26,000 sewer and water connection fee out of McCormick Woods now.
27,000.
$27,000 connection fee out in McCormick Woods. Well, the rest of the city has
Five or six.
yeah.
Well, 12.
Yeah, $12,000. So, in that scenario, but they're going to keep in the current proposed agreement the majority of that. We're not getting these dollars, and
And maybe hold that because you're jumping right.
I'm not
Yeah,
jumping.
you're
You're
ahead.
ahead.
Okay.
You're ahead. That's why I was kind of like,
No, you're way
wait a minute. No, you're about one slide away, Rob. So what we did is all the ones in yellow are what the city completed, right?
Okay.
As a part of our 17-18. We've also then identified those projects that will be impacted by the McCormick agreement. So the $2.6 million, they're building now. So we scratched that off. It wasn't part of our cash flow consideration. The other project we identified on the water side was this $1.2 million could be removed from our comp plan, part of the McCormick agreement. So you enter into the agreement. The total future projects changed to $13.3 million in total going forward, $75,000 per year still, and the allocation thereof. So I'm going to go to the summary slide. So these are the two side by side. No deal and deal. No deal, once we complete all our projects, in 2020 we have $14.5 million worth of projects still to complete. $700,000 per year, the allocation thereof. Deal, we still have $13.3 million worth of projects to complete, still $7,000 and thereof.
Why doesn't that reduce by the same $2.6 million of what they're funding?
The $2.6 million, this is looking forward. The $2.6 million was looking current, 17, 18, and 19. This is looking 2020 and beyond.
Okay.
Yeah, so
we already funded it back in the.
we've already funded it, or they paid for it, and all it did is impact our cash balance to fund this. So under the deal, you'd say you have $2.6 million of cash in your account to address the 13.3, or you don't have it, the 2.6 to address the 14.4. Right.
Go back, put that slide back again.
So the
Okay,
only project we
So
took
we have
out,
not included any of the projects that the McCormick agreement would have completed.
The sewer.
The sewer.
Either way, the sewer got done. The water it still hasn't been it's not in the list.
So the only, or said differently, the only projects that are contemplated in the comp plan and in the CFC current rate structure is the McCormick Pump 1 and 2 stations. And we have accounted for those. And then the other one that we discussed
Was that one?
was that 1.2
Two.
million that could potentially be removed if that goes forward. So, and that's where the difference is, the 14.5 versus the
Okay.
13.3 is,
Right.
you're really removing one future project off your list.
Right.
Okay. So again, still in the credit model, and maybe this is right about where I was jumping in. So we ran a couple scenarios to see, okay, under a no deal model, if you have 40 connections, what's your annual revenue? $440,000 per year. Okay. We did for 75, 100, and 125. So this is the total annual revenue you would receive per year under these scenarios.
But we don't have capacity for 40 and 40
I was
for
just
4
getting,
years.
Right,
you're right.
right.
We don't have the capacity.
Right.
So, I mean, this
Yeah.
is the math, but
Yeah.
we
So
have,
again, I'm more than that. I don't
Yep,
know
yep,
where the
that-
capacity
yeah,
is. I
get it,
just
yep.
look at it like this.
we,
Sorry.
and to do,
Yeah,
to do
that's-
that, we would have
if
to
we
go
could,
borrow
Right,
I
right,
get it.
12 million bucks
yeah,
and build that stuff.
right. So you have the no deal, and then the deal, and this is the revenue again to the city. So the revenue to the city would be $158,000 per year, 300,000, 400,000, or 500,000 if you do the deal, or it would be 4, 8, 1, and 1.4 if you don't do the deal. Again.
But
so
not
again-
doing the deal to get the connections, we have to build a Weld campus, and we have, that money isn't built into the expense side of it, which then,
So this just reiterates the same thing, summary level, what is it per year? What is the total impact? Again, you said, what's our horizon? Well, 20 to 23, how much revenue will this produce? $1.7 million. Again, no deal, $633,000. And we have your deltas over here of the impact of doing the deal. So the city would collect less money doing the deal as it's currently crafted.
Yep.
Okay.
but what's not, which we keep pointing, the difference in the no deal is to get those connections, there's improvements we need to fund that aren't in the capital improvement plan.
So I threw a lot of numbers at you. You guys seem to be tracking pretty well. And that's kind of where I stop. As far as, that's the credit model comparison.
Okay, but this doesn't complete the water picture that needs to be completed.
You're spot on.
Right. This leaves us $1.9 million to do the 13 and change
Right, but,
additional project.
And then another
but you have
12,
to do,
plus another 12.
before you can do these, we have to have the well out there. And the well isn't in any of these numbers.
Correct. This number right here
Yep, is not in those numbers.
is not in those numbers.
Right.
And so the net whether it's and Jeff, you still with us?
I am, yeah.
Okay, you haven't fallen asleep yet?
Waiting patiently.
So there's the reimbursement model, which they would love to have. We would need to, Jeff says we can get there. There's the credit model, but to do that credit model, we have to increase the connection fees to do that. There is one answer, and that's we feel from a legal standpoint, whether or not it would require, because of cash flows between the water and sewer and when the improvements needed to happen, for us, we would be more comfortable with that if Jeff wrote a legal opinion and we ran that by the state auditor's office to make sure that we can legally co-mingle. We know at the end of the day, the two utilities need to be whole. Just jumping ahead here.
Well,
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, because I want to pause on that because I made some big assumptions in this presentation as far as commingling. I don't know if we can do that.
Right.
Okay,
And so
I made
that-
the assumption we can because I was looking at cash and numbers to see if we're
Okay.
solid, and so that's a different issue.
Yep.
That's a
not
separate issue than the math.
Yep.
And so we've got that scenario. The developer, this has been going on for a year, the developer really wants an answer. How can, and Jeff said it to me Friday, they asked, how can we get to yes? Okay, the net number is really, we did some analysis. If we removed of our 5945, and sorry Jeff, you're not looking at this whiteboard, if we took the city, I took this, what I'm referring to, the city, it's the old part of town versus McCormick. If we took the McCormick Woods, the city projects out of the McCormick capital plan, you could argue that the connection fee could go down $900, okay? But it makes this problem that we already know we see for the rest of the city much worse at $14,000. There isn't as, if we do the same exercise over here in the sewer, because what they wanted, if it was passed from their attorney to Jeff, if we just did the improvements, would you,
For them.
for themselves, if they did it, would we consider lowering the CFC? Okay, that could be a third alternative to consider. And we could, but the net difference is only really about $1,000 to go that route. So we've got legal questions in regards to credit and reimbursement. We don't really need to get anybody's permission if they want to build it. They want some assurances though if we went that route, and I'm not positive. I don't even know. Has Brent talked to his client about that scenario, Jeff?
I don't know that he has or hasn't. There's a couple points that I think need to be emphasized here that haven't been said yet. I don't think McCormick has any idea that they would be asked to pay for all of this capital, all these CFC charges that are going to be basically for capital and other parts of the city. That is not currently on their radar. So I think that bears pointing out. And I think the other thing that bears mentioning again is that there's a little bit of a trick in the logic here in that you don't actually get the CFC revenue without a deal. Because without a deal, there's no new well and there's no development, and therefore the only connections that you're going to get are connections outside of McCormick, which we're thinking might be 15 a year or something like that.
But and Jeff, you've heard me say this multiple times, and so has Rob, and I don't want to say this, but there is this alternative world, if you will, where the developer sees it in their best interest to build all this, and then we do get all those connections. If the builder never came to the city,
Right.
No,
and I don't agree on that scenario.
No,
either.
and neither does Jeff. But
And
you
neither
said
does
it,
Jeff.
so I would say, well, there's that side of the spectrum. There also is this side of the spectrum where they do find it in their best interest to do it, and then you do have all those connections fees.
Possible, but not
Well,
probable.
I mean, I guess if I was McCormick, my response to that would be, if you're going to have us pay all the connection fees, or all the capital facilities charged for all the other citywide infrastructure, and at the same time you expect us to build the well campus for McCormick, then why wouldn't you?
So Jeff, what I've got on the whiteboard is not that scenario, and it's. I think there's a whole bunch of projects out there that we've got to in the city that we've got to figure out how to fund, but the connection fees as they stand within $1,000, it makes them, with them building those two big projects, there's some ancillary stuff that goes with it that we still need to fund, and we still need to fund the Marina Pump Station, which we split 50-50 between the two areas. I think in this scenario, I think we could assure them, if we assured them that their connection fee didn't go up for 10 years out in that sub area, and that we have to figure out how to pay for these other $14 million of improvements and not lay it on their back, would that be palatable? And that's brand new to you.
They're still
We've been throwing numbers around in here all
Yeah, I
day.
mean, if you're asking me to speculate on what McCormick would want to see, but let me make sure I understood it right. Are you suggesting that we basically find some other way to Rob, can you say it again? I didn't understand
Okay,
what was,
so
you said what would be palatable.
what we analyzed today is on the water side, currently our CFC charge is $59.45. Okay, and we pared the list down to things we absolutely have to do, and so they build in that scenario. They build the $12 million well campus, but there's other projects that benefit that area. Okay, and we the analysis we did this afternoon, it's $5,000 basically. There's a $900 difference between what it currently is. The rest of the city, we've got to really look at the list, and we realistically need a $15,000 connection fee in the rest of the city. That's how out of whack our capital facilities plan is. Okay, so if we gave them assurance, I mean, we could adjust it $900, I guess, but if we gave them insurance, if they built the well, we'll figure out the other part of the city and not lay that $14 million project list on their back. Would that be palatable to them? And we did a similar exercise, and it's about a $200 difference on the sewer side.
Yeah, I mean, from what I can understand about it, it sounds like that was, again, I'm speculating. I have not discussed that with Brent Carson, but it sounds like what you're basically saying is, we're going to separate one part of the city from the other part of the city in terms of allocating responsibility, which is what we've always talked about doing here.
Yes.
And so as long as we stay generally within that framework, it seems like it's consistent with prior negotiations.
Well, see, the net difference in the connection fees is versus, okay, we're adding a $16,000 CFC charge in that sub area, which then we end up with a $27,000 connection fee out there. In the scenario I've just presented you, we don't add that on there. We leave it alone, and their net difference is the same because they did the improvements. The net's the same. It's just we're not doing a credit model.
But you're taking the rest of the city up.
We're gonna have to. We'll have to. Either way, it's not their responsibility to fix the.
But we need to go down that rabbit hole because to be able to cash flow, you're going to take the rest of the city up.
Are you saying that? Here's what I don't think will work. And again, I'm speculating because I haven't discussed this with their attorney. But if the idea is we're going to have one connection fee citywide, so the same fee inside McCormick and outside McCormick, but on top of that, McCormick is going to be asked to pay for the well campus in addition to the normal connection fees. I mean, I would be surprised if they'd be willing to do that.
Well, the reason is we're going to have to go through an exercise to address the capital needs for the rest of the city. We will raise the capital facility. We're going to have to raise the capital facilities charge anyway, and we're going to exempt them from that and solve the problems of the rest of the city with that group, in that subgroup.
It sounds to me, and I could be missing something here, but it doesn't sound to me like the non-McCormick projects are capable of being funded through CFCs.
That's correct.
You're right.
Because number one, you don't have enough growth to do it outside of McCormick, and so you're really looking, I think, at. I would assume you're looking at bonds if you're trying to find a way to finance the non-McCormick projects.
Right, because add on top
Bonds
of
and rate
that,
increases.
you run the risk of you know, if you tried to throw this in the form of a CFC to the rest of the city where we don't have a lot of infill occurring, you're gonna kill all infill because
Correct.
you're going up $10,000. Now it's not even economically feasible. So it's even a worse scenario. So now you're back to the statement Jeff just made. We're looking at bonds or something like that to be able to fund the rest of the city.
That 14 million or whatever it ended up with when we took the McCormick. stuff out
Either
of it.
way, we're probably gonna have to raise the CFC anyway, 'cause we don't have the revenue to pay back the bond, that's the problem.
Right, yeah.
Either way, we're looking at a capital facilities charge increase.
Correct.
And it's just whether so I guess it sounds to me like we need to pursue this credit model and see if we can get the,
But again, what's scary about that though is again, crystal ball. When's this next recession gonna hit? And if we go take out bonds thinking,
I'm not saying we're gonna take out the bonds. I'm saying if we pursue this credit model, they're gonna do all, and we're gonna lay a sub area of $16,000 on that area. They're gonna pay for it all, and they only get paid back as they sell lots and they connect. But the unanswered question is,
Well, the other.
Let's not,
go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, let's not mix two different things here. There's a separate question of whether the McCormick agreement ends up being a credit arrangement or a reimbursement arrangement, and that's totally separate.
Right.
A totally separate conversation from what we end up doing with CFCs inside and outside of McCormick.
Correct.
yes,
The other thing that we haven't talked about, we keep trying to pay for this $14 million worth of projects that we feel have to be done in 3 years. My question is, do they have to be done in 3 years? I mean, can we extend that time frame out?
we'll have to. And that-
So let me add another scenario here, because I'm just trying to think of this from being if I'm a developer versus a builder, right? At the end of the day, you know, if you have a connection fee, the builder has to sell the home, it has to get built for all this to happen, right? So
Right.
there's a lot of things that have to happen to ever have the opportunity for them to be issued that credit.
Correct.
And the builder's paying for it. That's the first amount of cash. They're being reimbursed by the homeowner,
Right.
Right.
right?
Eventually.
Eventually. And so wouldn't it be more beneficial to the developer just to go ahead and add that cost on the front end to the cost of the lot? So if they're gonna go out and sell 50 lots to the builder, they get 50 of it up front. They don't have to have the risk of when the connection occurs. Because at the end of the day, the homeowner's gonna, you know, the builder then the homeowner anyway.
They're
Now,
saying
may see-
they're saying they don't want it makes by increasing the price point of their lot. I've argued that your exact argument, and they're saying by increasing the price point of their lot, people won't consider their development. That's their argument.
Right, but at the end of the day, that builder, the homeowner, has to pay the same amount of money, regardless if you call it dirt or call it connection fee. At the end of the day, can you sell the house for $529,000?
Well, I've argued the
But
same
is
thing.
it the customer? You're dealing with one homeowner versus a builder that might come
That's
in and
funding
buy
it.
Yeah.
30 lots.
And it's on the
or
front end versus
50
when he
lots.
actually pulls his building permit.
So just a time check. 'cause
Yeah, I know, we got about 5 minutes here.
Um,
So, I'm just sorry, Jeff, we haven't gotten as far into this as I would like. Can we reconvene this group after the council meeting here for a little bit to just dive into this a little bit farther? This is pretty.
Well, I have to digest this more.
Yeah.
You know, we can have this high level, and maybe we need that for me to digest it more, but I need that PowerPoint, and I need to think about it. I need
Well, and I
to
think what
get-
we need too is we're gonna need 6 or 8 more slides.
I was just gonna say.
As we go
Right.
into, okay, if McCormick does this, or if we do this, or if we do this, I think we need 6 or 8 more
We've
slides.
identified 3 different possibilities: reimbursement, credit, this other thing. We've only done a presentation on really 85% of one of those models. And so to make a kind of an informed decision, I do think that we're gonna have to do a little bit more
Yeah,
work.
I think we have to play it all the way out.
Right.
Play it all the way out, and make all of the assumptions, ill or otherwise, on how this looks 10 years from now.
Because essentially
Well,
we're
and-
asking ourselves, one question.
Yeah.
We have two different CIPs. One of them is ours and one of them is McCormick's. One of them is our responsibility to the ratepayers to provide a quality system. One of them is McCormick's responsibility to provide for their own development. And how are we going to negotiate between those two?
Right.
And I'm just gonna throw this out there before everybody takes off. For Noah being here for such a short time and being able to come up to speed on something that we've been talking about for over a year is really impressive.
And put,
and
well,
nice
put the
work.
math to it, that whether we can, what we can
Really
afford
good.
to do.
Right.
Has been-
Because I think if we're going to, and I hate saying this stuff on there, but if we're going to negotiate against ourselves or against this builder, I think we need to understand the cash ramifications of
I
both
agree.
sides,
I
right? If
agree.
we go this way, what's the impact to them versus us? If we go
I
that
agree.
way, us, then it puts us in a position to sit down and negotiate because we know the physical impact to them as
A
well.
little
We
more
have-
So we're
informed.
not negotiating against ourselves.
Yeah.
We have some responsibility right
Yeah.
now because in that area, we're paying about $500,000 a year for water from Bremerton.
No, that's downtown.
That's the downtown, not the McCormick.
Not-
That's downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what well 13 solves.
Okay. So basically, we're trying to figure out how they can build a well system for their future development.
Correct.
Exactly.
Because even if we save,
Why should we pay for that?
well, it's the city's responsibility.
It's in our capital
It's our-
facilities plan.
Yeah,
There are
it's our
customers.
infrastructure, it's our assets.
So maybe we
Once
should,
they
maybe we should,
give it
we
to
should
us,
make a
it
plan
is.
to meet again, because
Yes.
we're gonna solve this in the next 10
Yeah.
minutes.
That's our,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay,
let's,
adjourned.
we're
We've got to
going
get to our
adjourn the meeting to
council
go to
meeting,
council
Jeff,
meeting, so
and
we're adjourned.